Welcome back to the Peeper guys. Let's dive into MGK and Megan's relationship drama. The hotel room was quiet except for the faint hum of the city outside. MGK sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his phone, his thumb hovering over Megan's name. His chest felt heavy, the weight of everything pressing down on him like a hand around his throat. He hadn't spoken to her in days, maybe weeks. Time blurred when you were drowning. He exhaled sharply and pressed the call button before he could talk himself out of it. Ring. Ring. Voicemail. He clenched his jaw, his grip tightening around the phone as he let out a low, bitter laugh. Of course, why would she pick up? After everything, after the fights, the silence, the distance, his best friend was gone. Just like that. One day there, the next, a void swallowing everything in its path. He thought Megan would be the one person to pull him out of it, to remind him he was still alive. But she was gone too, not in the same way, but gone just the same. His fingers moved before his mind could stop them. A text. I don't even know what to say. I need to hear your voice. The dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Megan, you should have called me before now. He stared at the screen, his throat dry. She wasn't wrong. But how do you explain drowning to someone who hasn't felt it? I know, I'm sorry. Nothing. The silence between them was louder than any concert, any screaming crowd. He tossed his phone onto the bed and ran a hand through his hair, pulling at the strands, trying to feel something. Anything but this numbness. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Then, a vibration, a message. Megan, where are you? He hesitated. She was reaching out. Did he even deserve it? He could hear her voice in his head, the way she used to whisper his name when no one else was listening. The way she saw parts of him no one else did. LA, the hotel off Sunset. 3 dots, then nothing. His heart pounded. Then another message. Megan, I'll be there in an hour. He stared at the words, his breath catching in his throat. He didn't know if he was ready. He didn't know if she'd even want to see him when she walked through that door. But for the first time in weeks, he felt something close to hope. The knock on the door came exactly 57 minutes later. He knew because he'd been counting. Every minute, every second. When he opened the door, she stood there, arms crossed, eyes darker than he remembered. There was something guarded about her, something that said she wasn't sure she wanted to be here either. Hey, he said, his voice rough. She tilted her head slightly, her gaze scanning him, taking in the exhaustion, the grief, the weight of too many sleepless nights. You look like hell. He let out a humorless chuckle. I feel worse. A beat of silence. Then she stepped inside. He closed the door behind her, watching as she moved through the room, fingers trailing over the edge of the desk, the back of the chair, like she was searching for something to hold on to. You should have let me be there for you, she finally said, turning to face him. I didn't know how. His voice cracked on the last word. He swallowed hard. He's gone, Meg. I know. Her voice softened, but there was still something unreadable in her eyes. And instead of letting me help, you shut me out. His fists clenched at his sides. Not out of anger, but out of frustration. Because she was right. Because he didn't know how to be what she needed when he could barely hold himself together. I thought if I just disappeared for a while, it wouldn't hurt as much, he admitted. But it didn't work. It just made everything worse. She took a slow step toward him. I would have waited for you, if you had just let me in. The words hit him like a fist to the ribs. He wanted to tell her he was sorry, that he would do anything to take back the nights she spent wondering if he still loved her, if he was ever coming back. Instead, he just whispered, "Are you still waiting?" A breath, a pause. Then finally, she whispered back, "I don't know." He felt his stomach twist. He had lost so much already. Could he handle losing her too? "Tell me what to do," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Tell me how to fix this." She reached out, fingertips brushing against his. It wasn't quite a touch, more like a ghost of one. A reminder. "I don't have the answers," she said softly. "I just know that when you love someone, you don't disappear on them." He let out a shaky breath. "I don't want to disappear anymore." For the first time since she walked through the door, she smiled. It was small, barely there, but it was real. And maybe, just maybe, it was enough to hold on to.